in the digital age. My name is Samia Sheikh, and I have the honor of being your host today for this webinar. Today, we'll be talking about parenting in the context of the fast paced digital world. Um, this was a very highly requested topic. So, without any further delay, I would like to request our speaker, Sir Khalid Iqbal, founder and director of Rahmaa Institute, to begin with the session.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulil Kareem amma ba'd. Rabbi Sharli Sadi wa Yasalim Ribahalul Uqtatum Lisani Yafqaw Qali. Thank you so much, Sister Samia, for the hosting. I know you're not feeling well, but still, mashallah, with your dedication and everything, thank you very, very much. And let's all pray for Sis Samia and all the others who are not feeling well to get well soon, inshallah. I'm so happy to be part of this program. And also want to thank Sister Ayesha Iqbal. She is my co-speaker and will be following me, inshallah, and also Aisha Faisal, who is with us, who is helping in the background. Thank you so much for that. Uh, Parenting is a serious matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, uh, in Surah Tahrim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum naran wa quduha an-nasu wal hijara. O believers, O you who believe, O people who are believers, save yourself and your families from the fire, whose fuel will be people and stones. So, what does it mean really? And the scholars have said that the only way you can save yourself from the hellfire is by by helping each other, your family members, especially your kins and your children, especially, to be a better persons. There's a dua, beautiful dua, that we recite, uh, uh, that ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. O my Lord, O my Rabb, make my spouse and my children the comfort of my eyes, and make me the Imam of al-muttaqeen, of pious people. I'm sure all of you must have heard of this advice from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which we call as the 777 rule. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned through Hazrat Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, that teach your children right from the very beginning, and teach them the teaching style should change as they grow. From birth to 7-year or 6-year-old or 7-year-old, teach them with a lot of love and attention. And then the next 6 or 7 years, teach them with a love, attention, but also with firmness. And this is the age when children really grasp and they start to take responsibility before being teenagers. And when your children become teenagers, befriend them and teach them with dialogue, by consultation, by in a friendly manner. This is we used to hear this for a very long time, but recently there was a study that was done that I'm going to share with you, inshallah, in a minute, that really highlight this rule and made me understand what this rule actually means. Before I go to the study, let me share with you, among many, many, many other things which are the needs of the children, like the physical needs and the health need and the need for attention. They need to belong, need to be approved, and approval. These are the three basics needs that the children have. And this remains with us throughout our life. I think it does. And this would be one of the reasons I want you to pay attention, because this would be one of the reasons why we are so hooked up to social media, to all the other devices, our apps that we have. I think these are the things, the three needs that human beings have, carry with us, but it starts with very young children. Let's look at the study now based on these three, keeping these three in mind. Um, Here on this, there was a study that was done of that uh, with over 1,000 participants in the study, and they carried the study for from the birth to their adulthood of the children. And what they found was, what is it that influences them, the children, which is on this end of the graph, on the y-axis of the graph, what influenced them as they grow. So this is the age of the child, and this is what influenced them, and personal percent in influence. And it's interesting that when a child is born, 100% of the influence is of that of the parent. No question about it. A child is newborn. Who else would influence them? So the parents or the caregivers have 100% of the influence. But then slowly, as they grow, the interesting thing is that the graph start to come down from 100% to slowly to 90, 95, 80, and so on and so forth. And what replaces that is, very interestingly, the bottom graph. This is the influence of either the peers or other influences. And what are those other influences that the researchers found was mainly what is given to the children for them to play with, or and these days, unfortunately, uh, children love to play with electronic devices, iPads, iPhones, and whatnot. And that has increased the influence tremendously. Then around the teenage, 12, 13, what happens is the parents' influence diminishes down, and the influence of the peer and the social media increases. This is such an interesting thing. And this is where it actually increases quite tremendously. And if you look at what Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned, is to treat them as friend. Your teenage children, once they have become teenage, treat them as friend, as a peer, as your equal, as somebody that you can talk with, somebody openly, and whatnot. And this is where you become part of this group, where the child has greater influence. So otherwise, they take influence from what they're watching on the internet, on the social media and whatnot, and they want to dress like that, they want to behave like that, they want to you know uh, uh, they are influenced by that. So it's such an interesting graph that I think we should keep in mind when uh, uh, we are parenting. So the the lesson that we learned from this thing that I want to share with you is, do not waste the time when the children are at the prime age of learning, and that is in the second half of their childhood, from age 6, 7 to 10, 11, 12. Do not waste that time, because that's when they absorb the most, that's when they learn the most, and that's when they start to take and um, that's why prayer is, becomes further on a child when they are at the age of 9, 8, 9, or 10. you know uh, Make them read or pray regularly. Start Get them to fast whenever they are ready to fast. Get them to learn Quran as much as as they can during that time. So very interesting graph, a study that I wanted to share with you. What influences us today is this. Oh my God, so many applications that there are, that it's amazing. Facebook, Twitter, Skype, YouTube, WhatsApp, you name it. It's all there for us to utilize, to use, and whatnot. Now, as parents, when our children start to get involved and start to use that, what is our role and what questions do we need to ask? Uh, let's look at what we usually use these applications for. We use them to socialize, to communicate, almost everything in our life, isn't it? Email, videos, share videos, books, read books, magazines. These days, because of the COVID, education is taking place at home using all these devices and all the applications that there are. We do shopping, we communicate with each other, and everything like that. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we becoming dependent on them? Is our children becoming dependent on them? If yes, how much? How much influence does they have on us? Interesting question was asked. And I have, and I gave her my phone, and she called, "Hey Siri, what is the solution for this question?" And I asked her, "Why did you do that?" Because I was interested in it. And you know what she said? She said, "Why should we stress ourselves in finding the answers the long way when it's easily available?" And this is the thinking of our young people these days. The question that I have for myself and for you all is, can I request everybody to please mute your microphone? Um, are we being smart this way, or is this just a illusion of knowledge? This is what I wanted to ask. And actually, there was a research that was done by Yale University where more than 1,000 people were researched, and they found out that those people who are 100% dependent or mostly dependent on finding answers either through Googling or through whatever devices they have, they tend not to use their brain, and it is causing them issues and problems in uh, problem solving, in addressing the reality of the life that we face. So it's a very interesting study. That is the reason why many of the researchers and scientists and medical from medical field and other fields, they say we should uh, not become so dependent. Although it's a lie, the reality is that it's here, the technology is here, and we need to use it for our benefit. It is for our benefit, but we should not be becoming 100% dependent on it. The other question that I have, and there could be so many so many questions that we can ask ourselves, but one more question that I want to put to my parents who are present over here. Why are these hundreds and hundreds, even more than hundreds, I would say, applications? They provide services for free. What is in it for them? Let's ask this question seriously. What is it that is in for them? What they must be gathering something in providing either free email or free phones or free communication or free, information and everything for free. Why? And if you look at it, not Google, sorry, Facebook recently, in the first quarter, which just finished, uh, they published that their mm, uh, uh, savings or their income was in the billions of dollars. I think it was something like $17.5 billion in the first quarter only. So what is it that they are gathering? And should we be concerned about that, especially from the point of view of our children? What it is, and there are many interesting studies that has come out, is that they are using us as a commodity. They are gathering valuable information, personal information, individual information, that interest, privacy issues, habits, location, relationship, you name it, and they're gathering it, and they are just like Big Brother, and they're using it for what purpose? To enhance their whatever their commerce is, whatever they want to, and sell it to others, businesses and whatnot, and we don't even know it. So this is such a critical and important thing. I would suggest my parents to watch this documentary, which is available on Netflix, I think, and you'll realize what I'm saying. It's called The Social Dilemma. I would strongly recommend you. And if you look at this picture that they have put on this, on the title is, if you can see, this is a kind of a what they call it the wolf trap or the animal trap, in which once you enter in, it's hard for anybody to get out. It traps you. And this is in reality what social media is doing to us. So let's look at the psyche of the children these days as parents. Uh, and if we look at this and compare it to the time when we were children, I think you'll find the difference. These days, the children love confronting their parents and elders and whatnot. They challenge them, especially the norms, if you present it to them. They want us to be like friends and peers and whatnot to them, or they get influenced by their friends and peers in their appearance and behavior. That's what social media does. Is when they look at Facebook or other platforms that are available. As I said before in the graph that I showed you, everybody need approval or sense of belonging to someone or some uh, uh, and so they seek approval and advice from who? From their friends rather than from their elders. And this is all because of the influence that they have uh, by the social media, video games. That video games is one thing that we can spend a whole session on. It raises the blood pressure of the child when they are playing. They're jumping on their seat. It make them super hyper, and especially when they're playing video games against other children, yeah, and you do or children or even adults. You do not know that these days these applications, they allow any stranger to come into your home. Any stranger of any age come into your home, and they can chat with your child through these applications. And that is something which is really concerning. Uh, it should be really, really concerning. So here are some recommendations that I have, and then inshallah I'll conclude. Uh, like it or not, we live in a digital world, so we need to embrace it. There's no question about it. Denying them access to is really not the right approach. Uh, Complete access to the electronic world, to the activities that they have, because it's stopping them from, especially now with the COVID situation, schools are run from home and they are on the computer at least 6-7 hours each day learning. So don't we as adults need to learn the technology. We are behind, many of us. We are behind. Can you hear me, or somehow I got muted?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. And we need to teach ourselves and them the respect of the devices, how what effect it's having on them, physically as well as emotionally and mentally. We need to uh, make them understand and get them involved in physical activities. They have to have time out uh, and do physical activities outside. Uh, we as parents need to learn parental control on all the devices that we have. And parental controls are not only electronic controls, but also blocking unwanted sites and softwares and whatnot. Those are important. Uh, Digital footprint is something that we must understand. Remember this thing. Sometimes you talk to certain kids and they say, well, all of these new applications that are coming, for example, um, which you put in videos and whatnot, they are there for a few minutes and then they disappear. But remember this thing, that digital footprint never vanishes. It goes somewhere in the cyberspace, and it stays there, and it could come back out, and it can be retrieved and used at certain time by certain people that you wouldn't even know who they are. So it can never be erased. That's what the reality is. And one of the golden rules that I teach is, if you don't want to say something face to face to anybody, never use to Skype, either text it or Skype it, or Facebook it. Do not put it. And it's parents who should mutually agree what to download, what not to download. As music, video games, sites, whatever the things that your child wants. It's critical and important to have realistic guidelines for managing time online. And this is one of the questions that was put by one of the parent. What should be the guideline for managing time? It varies from individual to individual, their needs and whatnot. So, but there are specialists, especially child specialists, who have given us the guidelines. My rule is, and rule of many parents are, never give a child, never allow a child sit in their room with the door closed with a device. Never do that. When you have them with the device in an open room, in the living room or whatever, it makes a difference. And remember, you don't want to have your child, children are there to make mistakes. They might be doing something. Make sure you encourage them to come to you and talk to you if they find something suspicious or something that is scary or something. And then you're not going to pull the plug on them. You're not going to snatch away their devices. Rather, you have a dialogue with them. I conclude here. Thank you so much. And I yield back to Samia.
Jazakumullah khair, and thank you so much for that lovely presentation. And it was so insightful and a lot of learning for all of us. And I wouldn't take a lot of time and introduce our guest speaker, Sister Ayesha Iqbal, who is an educational trainer, a philanthropist, and a parenting coach as well. She's a founder and director of Faiz-e-Aam Welfare Trust and Advanced Training Consultancy in Pakistan. Welcome, Sister Ayesha.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yep.
Yes, you are.
So as Samia has mentioned, my name is Ayesha Iqbal, and I'm an educationist, a philanthropist, and a parenting coach. And today, the topic that we have brought to you is parenting in the digital age. So there's no denying to it that parenting in the digital age can be extremely tough. No doubt, in whatever age your child is, whatever interest your child has, in this digital age, parenting is difficult. And we know that technology is becoming an everyday commodity in our life, and we need to go with it side by side. And keeping up to the speed with the latest technologies, this is also very crucial for parents, just like Brother Khalid Iqbal just said, that learning technology is very important for parents if we want to guide our children regarding the issues and regarding the pros and cons of technology. So we all know all the negative impacts of digital technologies on our children, and many of you have actually proposed some questions which showed us how worried you are and how many questions you have in your mind. And we all know that overuse of computers or devices or screens in an early age can affect many areas of a child's life, including their academic success. Because most of the parents are worried that my child is always on the screen playing a game and not paying heed to their study or their textbooks. So this is one concern that most of the parents have today. Then we also know that smartphones and laptops, they're very kind of convenient, go everywhere and always connected kind of devices. But this is actually giving a lot of stress to our children. This is actually getting to our children. And we know that in recent times, teenage depression is becoming very common. And why we're blame and there are many children who are actually committing suicide because of this depression. And why we want to blame this all on technology is because technology actually amplifies the problems that we are already having in this world. For example, procrastination. Children are becoming lazy. They're sitting in front of their devices and not having any physical activities. And this is why their minds, they're running in the wrong direction, because their energy is still inside there, which they need to use physically, but they're unable to do that. And also we know that because of sitting in front of the screens and not going anywhere, our children are becoming unsocial in real lives. Although there is a social media where they're present maybe 24/7, but in real lives, in as long as the face-to-face interactions are concerned, we see that our children are going behind, with every passing day. Again, we also see that they have lost their focus. There are so many things, there are so many colorful things on the device. You can get a new screen with a click, so they're losing their focus and their concentration in doing things that we used to see, that people would do one thing for a long time and become successful because of their consistency. We're losing that focus in our children. And I think the biggest challenge today is that our children are seeing violence on screens. They're also seeing nudity, online bullying is happening. And so all these things, just to name a few, are present. So in order to prevent our children from indulging in these kind of things, the parents also are in a fix, because they have to consistently monitor their children, and they're burdened with this task of online kind of security, and on looking at their children and their activities on digital devices. But we need to, as parents, we need to keep in our minds that just like anything else, um, uh, the connection to technology in our children's life is actually very important for them right now. In this age, in this era, connection to technology is a positive thing for them also, right? Especially, just like Brother Khalid Iqbal mentioned, that in this time of pandemic, when almost all their educational activities are going on online, if a child will not be able to do it or would not be able to understand how to reach technology in these times, they would not be able to become successful in their academic lives also. And otherwise as well, our kids, they need digital technology to move forward. in their professions, in their lives, or in whatever field they choose, in their professions. So I would like to share my screen here. Sorry, I forgot to do that. Um, I hope you're able to see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Uh, so so this is exactly what's happening. We as parents are also sometimes so immersed in technology that we tend to ignore our children who are also, indulged in the same thing over and over again. So let's talk a little about the pros of children using technology. There has to be some pros of this thing also. So number one thing is preparing your child for the future careers. You know that most industries today, they require their employees to have sufficient technical skills to perform well at their jobs. And these skills, they include use of software programs and knowing how to perform the tasks online. Just like it was mentioned in the previous session, that even shopping uh, is happening online, even marketing, everything in today's world is happening online. So our children need to have this skill to move forward in their lives. And this is one important advantage of exposing the children to the technology at a young age, because this is how they will be able to practice it and harness their tech skills with the passage of time. And by the time they reach the age of employment, many children will have proficient skills in using digital technologies. So I'm sure you all agree to this, that in this time, in order to enable our children to get into good professions, we need to introduce them to technology and let them play with it also, because many a times you need to have that experience to understand the things in a better way. Number two is making use of educational tools or gamification. We should actually thank technology, because many children now have convenient access to many different educational tools that help them to progress in their learning. And I think this is a huge positive, because one of the main reasons why we should encourage our children to use digital technologies is to get into those applications or those sites which actually provide learning in a very fun way. And online educational tools, they're usually downloadable. They're usually such applications that improve child's experience of education. And by gamifying the whole experience, it's actually fun for the children. So it's cool, because children, they often receive in-app rewards, which is great motivation for them. And as soon as they complete, they get some kind of some points or some stars, which is a great incentive in learning. Number three pro that we can see here is improving cognitive function. So I hope you know that studies have shown that children who play video games regularly, they are actually advanced in cognition. They have advanced cognitive skills compared with children who do not play video games. So you must have seen your children playing video games, and they need to they need to be very fast in few things, and they need to respond to different things in a in a very kind of sharp way. So research suggests that video games that are specially designed to improve cognition can be actually extremely beneficial for the growth of your child's mind. And these games, they are often labeled as brain training games, and they show a significant boost in the cognitive performance of a child's mind. Number four is easier access to information. So I understand that although this can be seen as a negative, that the information is right there on the screens of your child, on their finger, on like they can move their finger and get any kind of information on computer. But giving your children easier access to information can actually dramatically improve their speed of learning, because you know that children are extremely curious, and sometimes it's a big task, keep up with their questions and with their intelligent queries. And sometimes we as parents were not even able to answer their questions in a very good manner. So uh, instead of trying to answer all their questions, we can actually ask them to search it online, and they can get a number of answers to it, and then we can guide them what kind of information is more correct. So encouraging your child to use search engines on computer, and the online resources that are already there, just like brother Khalid Iqbal gave such a good example of, her his daughter, was it daughter or I think daughter's daughter, right? So she asked him to give his iPhone because she knew that the information is already there on the phone, on the screen. Why should she use her extra mind to think about things? So why reinvent the wheel as it's already there? So not only will this encourage your child to become more independent in getting their own kind of information, but it will also enhance their own capacity of learning. So these are some of the pros, but of course there are also some cons of your child using technology, especially if they're using it excessively. So, for example, one of the cons is underdeveloped social skills, just like we already mentioned, that this is a very common and very unfortunate side effect, that children using modern technology regularly and for longer periods of time, they lack real life interactions, face to face interactions with others. And this leads to children growing up without forming those essential social skills that they need for their life or for their future relationships. And this can result in children actually finding it difficult in making real friends and grow up uh, as a friendly person, later in their lives. Number two is children becoming inactive. So, constant use of technology can result in increasing obesity. And it can make our children increasingly inactive, or irresponsible sometimes, because they would not like to get up from their seats if you ask them to do any house chore, like help you out in something. So they actually, our new generation, it has started relying on digital devices for almost everything, just like we mentioned, for your shopping, for socializing, for entertainment, for learning, for everything. These digital devices are used nowadays. I have a relative, and he actually does not even go to the counter to book a ticket for himself. He does it online because he does not like talking to people. He would not even do it on phone, because he is not even able to do it sometimes, because he says, no, I can't do it. I can book it online. So we have lost communication skills that we should have to interact with people face to face. So inactive lifestyles are also associated with many health issues, just like I mentioned. Our children are becoming obese, and this is how they're getting some other diseases also, like heart diseases, etc. Number three is the addiction to technology, which is not right. So using technology in the right way is always a good idea, but addiction to technology, where we see that sometimes children have become seriously addicted to using smart devices, such as their smartphones. They have it all in their hands all the time, and they have their eyes on it, most of the times, even while they're sitting down with their families, even when there's relatives around, even when there's people around them or friends around them, even when they're in a party. They would like to, have social interactions online instead of having face-to-face interactions. So this can, of course, further lead to some other negative consequences, including some undesirable behaviors, which can occur if they are prohibited to use these devices. So I'm remembering this very sad incident that happened last year, when a child, when the parents snatched away a child's smartphone, and he got so depressed that he committed suicide. Because just because he was not able to reach the device for a long time. So in these matters, the parents have to be very wise, and they have to think very logically, and think of very with great wisdom when dealing with such situations. Number four is safety risks, and I think Brother Khalid Iqbal has already spoken a lot on this issue, which is a very grave issue actually, and there's no denying to it that there are a huge range. There's a huge range of safety risks that are associated with the use of internet, especially, and it has been proven that many children have seen malicious content uh, online, including, of course, some graphic content, which is not good for their eyes, and also which is not good for their hearts. So many children we see are nowadays left unsupervised while they are using internet, and so they have a free hand of going anywhere and doing anything and using any website at all. And this gives them a potential to get involved with many wrong kind of people also. We also see that there are some medical issues that can occur while you're using the internet, including bad eyesight, or things like that. So these were some of the cons that, of course, you already knew, but since these things are very grave, so it was important to mention them. I would like all of you to do a little activity if possible. I'd like you all, parents, to write down one negative impact of technology on your child that you think is the most difficult, or the worst impact that you see on your children. Okay, so just write down, and you can write it down in the comment window also that we have right here. um, uh, just write it down, one worst negative impact that you've seen on your child due to technology, due to the excessive use of technology. It could be less physical activity. It could be them being unsocial or less responsive. It could be them becoming time wasters, or it could be anything, any medical issue, anything, right? And one more thing I want you to write is, what measure did you take to prevent or overcome this situation? You know, so you're going to write two things. You're going to write down one negative impact that the worst negative impact that you've seen on your children due to technology, the excessive, the extra use of technology. And what did you do about the situation? What solution do you have in mind for this? Okay, so I'd actually request Sister Samia or somebody to take a screenshot of the comments that we're getting right now, so that we can go through them afterwards.
Yes,
And
sister,
I
we
would
are
also,
doing that as we, yeah.
thank you so much. I'm also going through them a little bit. So you have half a minute to do that. All right. So this slide will exactly take you where this task was going to take you. So how to prevent the negative effects of technology on your children? This is exactly what you were thinking in your mind right now, that this bad effect I have on my the technology is having on my child, and this is how I want to prevent it. So the first thing that you can do for your child in today's time is keeping your child active. you know we know that technology has transformed the way our kids interact with others or the world. And just like we saw that there are benefits, there are a lot of negative effects which are unquestionable. So one of it is uh, your child becoming inactive, right? So there's the big pandemic of child obesity. Besides COVID, there's another pandemic, that is child obesity, which is happening in the whole world nowadays. And this childhood obesity crisis, uh, it is because of a lot of factors, which includes dietary habits, which includes other things also. But inactivity due to technology is one of the major reasons of this problem, because they tend to find all kind of entertainment in on screen. Our children, they tend to find all kind of entertainment on the screen, like the video games, like maybe TV shows, whatever, movies, whatever entertainment they want to see, they can see it on screen. So this situation is very sad for us, of course. And this situation also makes our children unfit for as physically and also socially, right? um, and I think that these smart devices, they're also making our children very lazy day by day, and they need to have more physical activities. So I actually asked my family members on suggestions to keep children active and away from technology. And these are the suggestions that I got. I had them written down here. This is what they said. So one of them said that the children should join up to after school clubs. So there might be some schools offering after school clubs. Our children, we should know the interest of our child. Maybe they like to play football, maybe they like to go in dramatics or whatever. Then they said you should organize meetups so that they can socialize with their friends. So maybe it's not very possible in COVID days, but yeah, organizing meetups from time to time is also a good idea, so that they know the importance and they know the charm and they know the satisfaction of meeting people in real. Also, getting them involved in sports is a good idea. Take them to the local park. If they're younger kids, you can take them on swings in the local park, and you can actually make it a habit, a daily habit, to take them out in the evening. It could be for hiking or for anything else, any physical activity. You can take them for swimming, for football, let them play with mud in the backyard. So this would not cost anything. If you have any backyard or any place outside your home or even inside your home which has a little bit of mud, which is actually very, very healthy for the skin of your child, you know so you can do that with them. Also, you can involve them in age appropriate household tasks which they love actually in a certain age, like gardening, washing, etc. And since we do not let them work with us in a certain age, which is which is before preteens, they are not ready to help us in the teens also, because they don't have that practice. So we should do that also. um, so the first thing was keeping your child active, right? Number two is using parental control. We all know that there are many devices, uh, including the smartphones, which have parental control apps which can be installed in the child's device, and it can prevent them from accessing some potentially bad content online. But this only works with very young children, because our older children, they know how to break free of such parental control strategies. So but we can definitely, for with younger children, we can download these applications and view the websites that they're going online, or put a firewall for certain online website, etc. So you can block some websites also, which shows any indecent content. Number three is building your relationship with your children. I think this is very important. And this is one advice that Sister Samia actually gave us in one of our meetings. That if our children are exposed to the digital world for too long, they actually become detached with the family over time. And this is why we must schedule some time to bond with our children, on regular basis. So it does not have to be something very special, like taking them out for dinner, or having some kind of a party. It does not have to be that dramatic, but you should schedule time as a parent every day to spend quality some quality time with your child. So, and the purpose behind this time should be to build your relationship, your rapport with your child, and in order to keep them from digital devices that actually give them the satisfaction of happiness. So I have some suggestions for you, which you can use to build this relationship. Number one, you can make sure that your family dine together at least once a day. So it could be the dinner time or the lunch time, right? And no devices at that time, right? Taking your child to a family trip is also a good idea. So, just taking them out on a walk can also be a good idea. Reading a book with your child can be a good idea. So younger children, they love it if you sit down with them and read a book to them. Since I'm not a good reader myself, I ask my older children to read to me, and they love it because they are good readers. So I sit down and I ask them to read a book to me, right? So this could be a good idea, and you can discuss that book with them also. Cooking or baking together, doing any house chores together can also be a wonderful idea. So it is simple things like these that will help you maintain and grow a healthy relationship with your children, and which can keep them away from the distractions of the digital world, right? How much more time do I have? Because I would like to complete it in time, inshallah.
We have to go ahead with the question answer session. We just have 15 minutes more.
Okay. So can I try to wind it up in five
Yeah, yeah,
minutes?
please. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I have a few tips for you as parents in the digital age, and I would like to go through them very quickly. Number one is educate your kids on the importance of real life interaction. So it is your responsibility as a parent, and you know that humans are basically social creatures, right? And there was a study I was reading, and it said that the socially active people actually have better lifespans, right? They live longer. So we need to be to tell our children to be socially active, and to stay away from digital technology, and we should guide them how to replace face-to-face interactions, instead of having social media interactions. Setting clear boundaries is very, very important. So and it should be the first step, right? When to use the device, you can actually ask your child to make his own timetable, and actually write down in which hours he would be using his computer or his devices. So I make my son make his daily timetable, his day planner actually, which I tell him to stick on the door of his room so that he can look at it every day, and he knows that these are the 2 or 3 hours in which he can use his device. So let them decide it on their own, so that and ask them to then follow it religiously. But there are few things that you should remember to ask your children when they're making their timetables. For example, you should ask them to not to use these devices before bedtime or on weeknights, especially when their homeworks are not complete, before school time, when their friends or family is visiting. This is very important, because when friends and family are visiting, children, they tend to just, sit on their devices and do their own stuff. This should not be allowed in your house, and not at all during meal times, which I'm, struggling with, because my child, he would love to see the phone when he's eating, and it becomes very easy for me to make him eat when he's looking at the screen, but this is not advisable at all. So setting these boundaries would help reduce the negative effects of technology on your child. Consider age to introduce technology. So it is very important, and I think it was one of the questions from the parents also, that which age should we introduce the technology in. So studies have shown that digital devices, they if they are introduced too early, they have a negative effect on the mind, and it has a negative effect if they are introduced without a purpose and without a time span. So they should have a purpose if they're given to the child, and they should also be limited to a time span. uh, but whatever, it is definitely recommended not to give devices to any child under 24 years of age. Yeah. So before two, within 2 years of age, the children should not be introduced to devices at all, to a screen at all. But of course, when they start going to school, they should be introduced to screens, and because it helps them in education. So interact with your child using technology. This one is very effective also. So use technology. Using technology does not always have to be a solitary experience. The child does not always have to do it alone. You can play games with him also. You can sit down with him and see a movie also, so that you have that parent child time with each other. I think I'm almost done with my slides. This is also very important, that you should encourage independence in children, because there are a variety of ways when you can ask your child to safely browse the internet and the web unmonitored from you. But before that, you have to sit down and talk to them about what they can see and what they can't see, and then trust them with what they're doing. So this is one of the tips that positive digital parenting can have. You should also communicate to them openly, and provide them the environment that encourages them to speak to you openly if there is any thing that they see on on their devices which is not right. For example, there could be cyberbullying, and there could be other content that they would probably like to talk to you if you have an open conversation with them. You should always have positive interaction with them, and this is not just interaction with the technology. Otherwise also, parents should have positive interaction with their children, so that they are able to reach them if they have any problems online. Be the student is one advice that you have already received from Brother Khalid Iqbal, and I would like to insist on it, that as a parent, you want to teach everything which is important for your child, but sometimes you can become a student to your parent, to your child, and ask them to teach you things about technology, and you can even ask them to learn something online and then come back and teach it to you, in order to have a healthy discussion with them. So these are some limits, that I've already actually discussed with you, some milestones for different ages in using technology. So from 0 to 8 months, or you may say for about 2 years, the children should not be given any kind of devices at all, right? So because the researchers say that it is the most crucial time in a child's development, and devices could probably hinder in that development. So when your child become a preschooler, you can slowly incorporate technology into their daily routines. And it does not mean letting them go into the social media world, but you can definitely ask them to learn the things that would help them in education. In school age, of course, children are attending um, mm, schools, and they're sometimes attending full-time school from home, which needs them to sit down and look at a screen for a long time. So if it's helping them in their learning process, you have to, of course, let them do that. But then again, you have to keep a check that they're not watching any malicious content online. When they enter preteens, your child has actually reached a certain level of maturity, and they, of course, they want more access to digital devices such as tablets and smartphones. Again, here you have to have a little trust in them, explain to them how they have to go about it, and then leave them unmonitored also. And in teenagers, of course, they have to use the devices as a part of their lives, especially for their education. So it's very important to provide them these facilities, but again limit their time, and tell them to use it only for a purpose. So last advice would be, educate yourself regarding the use of modern technology, because only then you'll be able to guide your children regarding this thing. So whatever resources there are present, uh, uh, you should know them, and you should know the benefits of technology, you should know the pros, you should know the cons, and then you should guide your children uh, and become positive parents in the digital world. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Uh, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much, Sister Aisha. That was amazing. And it has definitely helped us understand this topic better, and especially for all those tips. This reminds me that first we have to check our own addiction. And now that I'm speaking, I'm handling 3 devices myself. So, inshallah, we should apply a lot of, because I think as parents, even we are addicted to WhatsApp and whatnot. Inshallah, let's move on to the question answer session. Um, one of the first questions that were asked was, how much screen time should be allowed per day, and how do we convey that to the child without them taking it negatively?
Is that for me or for Aisha?
Any of you could answer.
Well, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend, and this is their recommendation, as Aisha mentioned, that no screen time for children under the age of 2. Okay, because it affects their growth and whatnot, and then slowly increase it. And this is about social time, social screen time, up to 2 hours max, not more than 2 hours. Even for adults, it's not recommended to be any more than that. Although 2 hours itself is a long time, these days the children are watching and having screen time much longer than that because of the school issues and whatnot, being schooled at home. Now, it does have health issues, and the Sue Palmer is a pediatrician who is also a child specialist in the field, and she mentioned that because of this, they have related it to other health issues like eating habits, poor eating habits, and obesity, as Aisha mentioned, and low concentration and whatnot. So parents need to be aware of that and minimize the screen time as much as possible.
Jazakumullah khair.
Aisha,
The next,
can you delete your
absolutely.
screen sharing from your side? We can't do it. You're still sharing your screen.
Is that done now?
Yeah, it's done now.
The next question is, we may control our children, but how do we manage when they see their cousins or their classmates or their friends using a mobile, and they feel other parents are cooler and ours are stricter, and they also might feel they are missing out and may feel deprived, and this would in turn, affect the relationship that the child has with the parent.
When parenting is not a competition, okay? So it's not a question of being cool or and what the children think and whatnot. Parenting is much more serious than that. So parents need to be smart, and they need to do what is best for themselves, for their children, and everybody else. So it's so important to keep that in mind rather than start competing with different parents. What different parents do is for their own reason, and we respect that and we appreciate it. But you have to decide on your own. There's absolutely no question about it.
Thank you. The next question is, how do we manage the internet usage with children between the age group of 15 to 18? Because parental control may not work on them, and they're high on the need of space and better in usage of technology than us. Then they might actually lock us out from our own phones. So how do we deal with teenagers, 15 to 18, and even younger?
Well, there was when I was preparing for this presentation, what I had in mind when I was discussing that research is there's so much wisdom that what Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us is that at that particular age, you should be treating each other like friends. And friends share with each other what is good for each other. Okay, don't treat your child who is of that age, 15 to 18-year-old, as a child anymore. Treat them with respect, and if you treat them with respect, they'll treat you back with respect. And of course, and the children are wise enough, they know they what we are discussing, they already have in the back of their mind that this is good for us, this is not good for us. So uh, treat them like a friend, and inshallah, when you discuss them as a friend, things will work out much better, inshallah. It's not a competition.
The next question is, at which age should we ideally give our children a smartphone?
I think Aisha discussed it very nicely in her presentation uh, on that. Uh, it depends upon so many things. Okay, giving a smartphone, it seemed like it has become as if it is mm, part of a must. You don't have to give a phone to your child. It's not, they don't need it. And if they do not need it, they should stay away from it because it's not a good device, especially. But if they do need it, and if they're mature enough, it depends upon their maturity, it depends upon the need. Um, it depends upon, how much, uh, uh, what their use is and whatnot. So give it to them for that. Now, the question here is smartphone, and that's what is troubling me. Okay, if is phone is a device to communicate, and let's say if the child comes home and the parents are still at work and they come home from school when they used to go to school and they need to call their parents with the phone, then they need a phone, not a smartphone, by the way. Smartphone is trouble, especially if it is for certain age. And the guidelines that I would suggest to my dear brothers and sisters who are here, to the parents, is uh, put a clear guidelines and follow them up on a regular basis. For example, I'll just give you certain examples. Never, never, never let a child sleep with their phone or a smart device. There are so many studies that have come out when children used to go to school. They would go there so tired in the morning because the smart device would ping, 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 and they would get up and they would respond to something, oh, what is happening, or to the texting, and God knows what happens, and they are unable to sleep. A child needs 8 hours of sound sleep every day. And with their device, they cannot. So in my home, the rule is if somebody have a phone, they need to submit it in to the parents' home, room at 8 o'clock at night. No more device after 8 p.m. Weekend or no weekend, weekdays or weekend does not matter. So it's so important to have uh, kinds of guidelines, very clear guidelines that should be followed. But I don't recommend smartphones for the children. I'm being a parent and a grandparent. I think, especially who has done some work in this area, I would not recommend that.
This leads to another question, which was come to us by concerned parent, that there is a rise in relationship issues because with the online web, school, the numbers of the classmates have been shared, and apart from studying there is also a lot of texting going on and mixing up of genders, which was at least a bit limited, but now the children make excuse that I'm working on a project, so I need to talk to so, and studies is not what they really talk about. So this is a rising concern among parents that was raised. So would you like to discuss it?
Um, what can I say? Uh, our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that if there is a boy and a girl in khalwa, okay, when in private, the third is shaitan, okay,
True.
and this is the reality. Uh, there is absolutely no reason for a boy or a girl to chat with each other unless they are doing some project or some work or something. It's different. Then it's something professional, what I call. Okay, and then it should be limited to that professional. Otherwise, there's absolutely no reason for a boy and girl to connect with each other. And if they are that in that situation, they should get married. Okay, simple as that. Um, mm, uh, so uh, they should not be communicating with. What are they communicating about? Tell me. I want and if the parents should have the right to go into any child devices to inspect it at any time, and I would suggest that. And if their children are having issues, uh, let me share something with you that has happened, and that I think should be a warning for the parents who are here. There was a case here uh, in the United States, unfortunate case where the girl was a good girl, a very excellent good girl, and she was connected by somebody, okay, on the internet, and then they decided to meet, and guess what? She ended up in Europe being sold as a sex thing. This is the real case. That should open up the eyes of our, so you never know who you are texting with majority of the time. And our children are innocent. They run into issues. So my humble request is, please, there is so much wisdom in what our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, that if there is a boy and a girl, then the third one is shaitan. Be aware of that.
Jazakumullah khair. I just wanted to add a recently one of the friends told me that when they were in college, they would find that the opposite gender was very caring, and they felt loved, which they did not feel at home. Like there is someone who's asking them if they've had their food and whatnot. So I think parents, children using this excuse that we don't feel special by our parents, we don't feel loved, I think inshallah if we do that, they wouldn't need these predators who are seeking out vulnerable children and exploiting and seeing that they feel deprived and then they're preying on them. So we should make sure that our children feel loved and feel special. That's what I wanted to add.
Once
Just
again, I agree. Once again, that 777 777,
true.
the last one is that you be like a friend with your teenage child. Okay, when you are friend with them, when you're, of course, there is that parent-children relationship. I'm not taking that away. Of course, there has to be some times where they need to be reminded of the issues and whatnot. But at the same time, this is important to. There's so much wisdom, mashallah, in what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said.
The next question is, during COVID, parents, especially mothers, have had an extra role of being a teacher, a housemaid, and a mom. It has caused a lot of frustration, and they are asking what is that we should do, because women are really frustrated, even men for that matter. So they are asking us for some guidance.
Um, I look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in the Quran. Okay. Before that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had mentioned that parenting and tarbiyah, which is teaching, is not a mother's job only. Okay. Is the parental responsibility. And if you look at the Quran, look at Surah Luqman, Surah Yusuf, so many stories about uh, fathers talking to their children, fathers training their children, fathers having dialogue with their children. Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam talking to Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, listening to his dream and advising him. Luqman giving advice to his children. How many incidences are there where fathers need to play? And these are clear from the Quran's perspective that both parents need to play a equal role, if not one over the other. Remember one thing, what father can do is tremendous amount of assistance, especially if there are boys there. So I would advise, as Aisha mentioned, hey, take your son for a cricket match or for a baseball or basket, uh, play basket with them and play pool with them, whatever it is. Go do some activities with them, take them for fishing or whatever, and spend some quality time with them. So the father will have a tremendous role. Also, should have a tremendous role. It's not the only the role of the mother.
Yeah, many sisters would be really happy to hear that, and hoping if their husbands were also logged in.
You
So,
know, one of the things that I would request the brothers who are here,
mm,
uh, please take it. Don't take it in the wrong way. This is what the Quran is teaching, and you have such tremendous influence. You would have such tremendous influence on your children. Uh, you know, uh, Subhanallah, it would make a big difference.
Um, One of the next questions is, how do we motivate our children to pray on time and be closer to Deen, provided they have so much of distraction right going on these days. It's very difficult for them. So, any tips on that?
What was that question again? I'm sorry.
How do we motivate our children to be closer to God and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to pray on time and to pray in general, because there's so many distractions. They're watching some series, and somehow prayer always takes a back seat.
Okay. Once again, I'll refer back to that 777 777 rule. Uh, Prayer is fard, and there are many other. And once you teach your child, and prayer becomes obligatory or fard at the age of 8 or 9. Okay, 8 usually. That's when children should be. And if you ask your child at that age, hey, come. But then at the same time, you should teach them with example, isn't it?
So,
If the parents themselves are not praying and you tell your children to pray, then what kind of examples are we setting at home? If you are praying at home, then this is a perfect time. uh, Under COVID, there are many negative things under this disease that we have, but there are positive, that we are at home. Get your children to stand behind you and pray. Get your children to come and pray, and inshallah, let me share this rule of 40 with our brothers and sisters here. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, anyone who consistently does certain things for 40 days, it'll become permanent. And we have the opportunity these days. Remind your children and get them to stand behind you and pray. And inshallah, it'll remain with them for their life. So, but some parents, if they have teenage children and older children, remind them also in a friendly way, inshallah, and they'll come around.
there's just one last question. Advertisements have adverse effects on children. They have become very materialistic and they do not value things in life. How can we help our children face these things? And a lot of body shaming, feeling of discontentment among children, and rise in this materialistic attitude. So,
Uh, that's how these people make money.
so
Okay, targeted advertisement. Let me share this story with you about a parent whose child they were using, and every device that we have, there's a camera on it.
yes,
Even if the device, and even if you're not using the camera, it is live. Let me share this thing with you. There's a microphone on it, and even if you're not using it, it is live. Okay, let me share this true story with you about this parent, and American parents who had their young child, using a device, a phone, I think, or an iPad, something like that. And all of a sudden, the child, because the parent had already talked to the child, he came to them and said, Mama, Baba, or Mom, Dad, I'm seeing this thing which is not good. Okay. Guess what? The parents kept that device with them and tried to see if that advertisement appear again, and it never did. So they did an experiment that they had the child picture, put it in front of the camera while the camera was off, and the advertisement started to change, geared towards that child again. But not that. So the devices that we have is they are very cunningly, I would say, targeting us. Yes, you're right. So the best way, in my opinion, is to teach you or have a heart-to-heart talk with your children, make them aware, and that some of these advertisements are inappropriate for them. That's one side. The other side is, remember, we are parents and we have responsibility. We don't need to fulfill the every desire, every thing that a child brings to us. Obviously, they're bombarded with this targeted advertisement, but we should not be uh, agreeing to it, and talk to them and in a nice way, and share alternative. The third thing that I would really recommend is, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about any activity, talks about giving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, giving. Encourage your child to and take them to places where, for example, uh, you know, uh, places where uh, homeless people are. Show them the other side of the have-nots and get them to give in that. I think that will change, that has changed the direction in which your child will demand what they are desiring. Otherwise, there's no limit to what the child would desire, especially when their friends are getting everything. They would want more and more and more, but you as parents need to control that.
That is so true. And I think that if we have got consciousness, because we cannot possibly monitor each and every activity of a child. So if we have got consciousness, inshallah, they will be aware that they are not supposed to indulge in few things, and we should bring, them to this point that they have got consciousness. We call it khushu of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, so that they're careful on their own, because we can't possibly always monitor them. So, inshallah, thank you so much, Jazakumullah Khair, for this amazing and valuable session. I'm sure all of us have benefited, and they're so easy to apply, and we will surely implement them and use it with our children, and definitely write to you how it was and how beneficial it is to us. So, all my dear parents who have joined us, please give us feedback and let us know. And you can even comment right now in the chat box how you've liked the session, and write to us if you find this useful, or if you have any queries or personal situation that you need or guidance on. Please write to us at info@rahma.org, rahma being with double A. I'll give the email ID over here, or rahmainstitute@gmail.com.
Can
Thank you.
I give
Yeah,
one comment,
yeah,
Samia, before
yeah.
you conclude?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to share something with you, with my dear parents and whatnot. It's so important when you have good parents,
True.
when your parents are involved with the life of the children, results come out very positive. Mashallah, mashallah. I don't want to say, but Ayesha Iqbal, who presented, you know, two of her children, mashallah, are Hafs Quran. Okay, and that was because of the parents. Our other Aisha, sister Aisha Faisal, her children are memorizing Quran, and they are doing such great work, young children. And so it is the parents who spend quality time and work with their children will see results. That's all I wanted. um, uh, Internet or no internet, or with challenges of life or no challenges of life, they will all remain, but it's the parents that would make a difference in the life of the children.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you so much. I think there is a takeaway, and we will all remember this wonderful session. There's so much that we learned today, and I would like to thank everyone who's come here. Special thank you to our guest speaker Ayesha Iqbal. Special thank you to our sister Ayesha Faisal, who has helped, and she is doing all the background work. And of course to our sir Khalid Iqbal, because he is the one. This is his dream baby. Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah reward you all. And we'll announce the next session soon. So please be in touch with us. Would you
Assalamu
like to
alaikum wa
conclude
rahmatullahi
with
wa
a
barakatuh.
dua?
Subhanakallahumma bihamdika nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining.
Walaikum salam.